What if I told you that the biggest enemy of your success is not outside of you, it's within you? Not your haters, not your past, not the economy, not your background, but your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind. Most people are trying to control the world while failing to control themselves. They want better results, but they refuse better discipline. They want change, but they resist structure. They want power, but they lack self-mastery. Today is not about motivation. It is about authority. Authority over your words. Authority over your emotions. Authority over your thinking. Because the moment you gain control of these 4 areas, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the architect of your destiny. Your words shape your world, whether you realize it or not. Every sentence you speak is a seed, and every seed produces a harvest. The problem is not that people don't speak. The problem is that they speak carelessly. Words are not empty, sounds floating in the air. Words carry direction. Words carry authority. Words carry creative force. When you constantly declare weakness, you program your mind for defeat. When you repeatedly speak fear, you strengthen anxiety. When you confess limitation, you build invisible walls around your own potential. Many individuals are trapped, not by circumstances, but by vocabulary. They rehearse failure daily through their speech and then wonder why success feels distant. Your mouth is a steering wheel. If you turn it toward doubt, your life follows doubt. If you turn it toward growth, your life follows growth. This is why disciplined speech is essential for mental mastery. You must refuse to give your temporary frustration permanent expression. Not every negative thought deserves to become a spoken word. Silence is often a sign of strength, not weakness. When you learn to pause before speaking, you begin to govern your future. Speak vision, even when results are not visible. Speak progress, even when improvement feels slow. Speak solutions instead of constantly announcing problems. Your mouth should not magnify obstacles. It should reinforce purpose. When you train your tongue, you train your focus. When you train your focus, you influence your behavior. And when your behavior aligns with powerful language, your life begins to reflect the authority of your speech. People who master their words rarely destroy their own confidence. They understand that the first person listening to every word they speak is themselves. If you would not allow someone else to call you incapable, then stop calling yourself incapable. Replace careless language with intentional declarations. Replace complaint with clarity. Replace negativity with constructive thought expressed through disciplined speech. Control of the mouth is not about speaking more. It is about speaking with intention, restraint, and direction. Emotions are indicators, not leaders. They are signals, not commanders. Feelings were designed to inform you, not to control you. Yet many people surrender their decisions to whatever emotion is strongest at the moment. When anger rises, they react. When fear appears, they retreat. When excitement builds, they act impulsively. This pattern creates instability because emotions fluctuate constantly. Discipline requires that you separate what you feel from what you choose. Maturity is demonstrated when your commitment is stronger than your mood. You will not wake up every day feeling motivated. You will not always feel confident. There will be moments when frustration attempts to dominate your thinking. But emotional mastery means you acknowledge the feeling without submitting to it. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can feel disappointment and still remain consistent. You can feel irritation and still respond calmly. The strongest individuals are not those who lack emotion. They are those who regulate it. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. A reaction is driven by impulse, but a response is guided by principle. When you allow your mood to control your actions, you hand over authority to instability. When you choose discipline over emotion, you take back control. Emotional control is not suppression, it is management. It is recognizing the signal without allowing it to dictate behavior. Calm thinking in emotional moments protects relationships, protects opportunities, and protects long-term goals. If you cannot control your mood, you will sabotage progress during temporary discomfort. But when you decide that your values, goals, and commitments are greater than your shifting emotions, You begin to operate from strength instead of instability. Financial discipline reflects mental discipline. The way you handle money reveals the way you handle yourself. Money is neutral. It simply responds to the character of the person managing it. If you are impulsive in thought, you will be impulsive in spending. If you lack clarity in your goals, your finances will lack direction. Wealth is not built by accident. It is constructed through intentional decisions repeated consistently over time. Every dollar you earn carries responsibility. It asks the question, will you consume me or will you multiply me? Many people desire financial freedom, yet they refuse financial structure. They want abundance, but they resist budgeting. They want prosperity, but they ignore planning. This contradiction creates frustration. Discipline means telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. It means understanding the difference between assets and liabilities, between needs and wants, between short-term pleasure and long-term security. Impulse spending is often emotional spending. When the mind is undisciplined, money becomes a tool for temporary comfort rather than lasting stability. True control requires delayed gratification. It requires the strength to say no today so you can say yes tomorrow. Saving is not deprivation, it is preparation. Investing is not risk without thought, it is strategy guided by knowledge. When you align your finances with your vision, money begins to serve your purpose instead of distracting you from it. Financial pressure often exposes mental weakness. Panic leads to poor decisions. Anxiety leads to reactive choices. But calm evaluation leads to wise strategy. A person who controls their money understands that income alone does not create wealth. Management does. You can earn much and still remain unstable if discipline is absent. Financial growth mirrors personal growth. As your thinking expands, your strategies improve. As your patience increases, your stability strengthens. Money magnifies who you already are. If you are disciplined, it enhances structure. If you are careless, it amplifies disorder. Mastery over money begins with mastery over desire. When you learn to control your appetites, you gain control over your financial future. Freedom is not about how much you earn. It is about how wisely you manage what you have. Financial discipline is a daily decision, not a one-time event. It is a reflection of a mind that values order, foresight, and responsibility. Guard the gate of your mind, because everything in your life begins as a thought. The mind is the command center of behavior, the headquarters of belief, the birthplace of action. If your mind is unprotected, your life becomes vulnerable. Thoughts arrive constantly, but not all thoughts deserve residence. Some thoughts are constructive, others destructive. Some build confidence, others weaken resolve. If you accept every idea without examination, you surrender control of your direction. Mental mastery requires awareness. You must observe what you are thinking and question whether it aligns with your goals. A negative thought repeated often becomes a belief. A belief reinforced consistently becomes behavior. Behavior practiced daily becomes character. Character ultimately shapes destiny. This chain begins in the mind. Guarding your mind does not mean avoiding reality. It means filtering interpretation. Challenges will come, but how you interpret them determines their impact. You can interpret difficulty as defeat or as development. You can interpret criticism as rejection or as refinement. The disciplined mind searches for lessons instead of excuses. It focuses on solutions instead of dwelling on obstacles. Information enters your mind through what you read, watch, and listen to. If you constantly consume negativity, fear will grow. If you constantly consume growth, wisdom will increase. You become mentally shaped by your mental diet. Concentration is power. A distracted mind produces scattered results. A focused mind produces progress. Training your mind requires repetition, reflection, and intentional learning. It requires replacing destructive patterns with constructive ones. Doubt may appear, but it does not have to dominate. Fear may surface, but it does not have to rule. You have authority over what you nurture in your thinking. The mind can be conditioned toward discipline, just as the body can be trained toward strength. When you guard your thoughts carefully, you protect your confidence, your clarity, and your direction. Self-control is true power. Many people misunderstand power as dominance over others, loud authority, or visible influence. But the highest form of strength is mastery over yourself. If you cannot control your impulses, your appetites, your reactions, and your habits, then any external authority you gain will eventually collapse. Leadership begins within. Before you direct a team, a family, or an organization, you must first direct your own behavior. The undisciplined person seeks control over others while remaining a servant to their own weaknesses. True authority is internal stability. It is the ability to remain steady when pressure rises. It is the capacity to say no when temptation calls. It is the discipline to stay committed when distraction appears. Self-control requires awareness. You must know your triggers, your weaknesses, and your patterns. When you understand yourself, you can interrupt destructive cycles before they take over. Impulse promises immediate satisfaction, but often delivers long-term regret. Discipline may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it produces lasting respect and confidence. Every time you restrain an unhealthy reaction, you strengthen your character. Every time you choose principle over pressure, you build integrity. Strength is not proven in comfort, it is revealed in challenge. Anyone can remain calm when circumstances are easy. Anyone can remain focused when there is no opposition. But when criticism arises, when temptation increases, when frustration builds, that is when self-control demonstrates its value. Power is not reacting to every comment. Power is not giving in to every craving. Power is not allowing ego to dictate decisions. The controlled individual understands timing. They know when to speak and when to remain silent. They know when to act and when to wait. This restraint creates influence because stability attracts trust. People are drawn to those who are governed by principle rather than emotion. If you cannot lead yourself, you will always depend on external control to maintain order in your life. But when you master your own habits, your words, and your responses, you become reliable. Reliability creates credibility. Credibility creates influence. Influence built on self-control is sustainable because it is rooted in character rather than image. Consistency creates mastery. Greatness is rarely the result of one dramatic action. It is usually the outcome of small disciplines repeated daily. Many individuals desire transformation, yet they underestimate the power of routine. They look for sudden breakthroughs while neglecting steady improvement. Mastery is not accidental. It is the product of repeated effort guided by clear intention. Every controlled word, every regulated emotion, every disciplined financial decision, every guarded thought may seem small in isolation, but over time, these actions compound. The person who practices daily self-governance strengthens mental muscles, just as physical training strengthens the body. The challenge is not knowing what to do. The challenge is doing it consistently. Motivation fluctuates. Inspiration rises and falls, but commitment sustains progress. When you build habits aligned with your goals, you reduce reliance on temporary feelings. Consistency transforms discipline into identity. At first, self-control requires conscious effort. Over time, it becomes natural behavior. The disciplined individual does not negotiate with their goals each morning. They act because action has become a pattern. Patterns shape performance. Performance shapes results. Results reinforce confidence. Small daily victories accumulate into significant long-term change. Missing one day may seem harmless, but repeated inconsistency weakens momentum. Progress does not demand perfection. It demands persistence. You may stumble, but you rise quickly. You may feel resistance, but you continue anyway. Consistency teaches resilience because it trains you to move forward regardless of mood. Mastery is not achieved by intensity alone. It is secured by endurance. The steady person outperforms the erratic one. The focused individual surpasses the distracted one. When your actions align with your intentions every day, even in minor ways, you begin to see measurable growth. Over time, what once required effort becomes instinct. What once felt difficult becomes manageable. What once seemed impossible becomes achievable through disciplined repetition. We have talked about the power of your mouth, how your words create direction and shape your reality. When you discipline your speech, you stop sabotaging your future with careless language. You speak vision instead of fear. You speak growth instead of limitation. We have confronted your mood, understanding that emotions are signals, not commanders. When you refuse to let feelings dictate your decisions, you move from instability to strength. You act from commitment, not impulse. We have examined your money, realizing that financial discipline mirrors mental discipline. When you control your spending, your saving, and your planning, you build freedom instead of pressure. You stop serving money and start directing it. And we have entered the control center, your mind, the battlefield where thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become actions, and actions become destiny. When you guard your thoughts, filter negativity, and feed your mind with purpose, you transform from the inside out. Here is the truth. Self-control is the foundation of self-respect. Consistency is the pathway to mastery. Discipline is the price of freedom. If you can control your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind, there is no environment powerful enough to stop you. Your life will always move in the direction of your strongest discipline.